I recently got asked what the hell is zero crossings inside the grid of Bitwig Studio. So I thought maybe it's a good idea to make a tutorial about this and explain what actually zero crossing is doing in the grid. If you want to save some money on Bitwig Studio and the upgrade plans, and you want to support my channel and my content, then go to my webpage, use the link to the Bitwig store, use my code and save 10% on the regular price. Okay, let's start. So to explain this, we need of course one pulley grid device. And inside the pulley grid we need a module called zero crossings. That's what this video is about, right? So when we select this zero crossings module and press F1, you see a small help menu. It says zero crossings pitch is a rough pitch estimator. So to explain this, what it does is the best example would be to use a sine oscillator here and an oscilloscope. And you can already see the waveform inside the oscilloscope from the sine wave. It's pretty clean. And at the bottom of the oscilloscope, we have the value of -1. At the top, we have the value of +1. And in the middle, we have the 0 line. And you can maybe guess it. Every time the signal crosses the 0 line here, we have a zero crossing. And you can see the distance between the zero crossings. And when I change the pitch of the oscillator here, you can see the zero crossings are now much closer together, right? And when I lower the pitch, the zero crossings are much further apart. This means if you measure the distance between the zero crossings, you get the pitch of the signal or the frequency of the signal, of the audio signal, okay? And this is basically what the zero crossings module is trying to do. It tries to estimate the pitch by measuring the distance between the zero crossings of the signal. That's all there is to it. So when we basically just connect these two here, so the sine wave has now a pitch and it's outputting an audio signal. The audio signal is going into the zero crossings. The zero crossings module tries to estimate the pitch. And if we use a readout here, we can switch this to nodes, and you can see here our node is basically C3. Maybe change here the pitch. You can see, yeah, it measures some kind of pitch here at the end. So when we change the pitch on the oscillator, the output also changes here the pitch, measured pitch information. Okay, so in this example, it's easy because we have an sine wave, which is the simplest and easiest to measure the easiest to measure it in. Okay, hardware input, and we select here the microphone. You can see my voice is much complexer than the sine wave before, and now it gets complicated, at least for the zero crossings module, to measure the distance between zero crossings, because there are a lot of different things happening. Sometimes there are not even zero crossings happening at all. Sometimes there are double zero crossings happening and so on. So a lot of complex things going on in the audio signal, right? Therefore, there are now these high cut and low cut knobs here. So you can simplify basically the signal before you measure the distance. And to show you how this looks like, I'm basically simulating these two knobs in front of the oscilloscope here by using a high pass and a low pass. Okay, 6 poles here. So these two knobs are basically doing the same thing as these two knobs here in the zero crossings module, but in this case here, you can see now in the oscilloscope that when I'm turning in here the low pass, that the signal becomes much simpler, right? All the high frequency noises and yeah, harsh sounds are basically cut out. And now it's much simpler to actually measure the signal. So when I'm using maybe a volume knob, so we can raise the signal a bit so you can see it. The signal is much simpler, right? And you can see all kinds of pitches happening here in the end. So even sometimes when you use the zero crossings module and you have a super complex signal and you try to measure the pitch of the signal, it's even recommended to use additionally also high pass and low pass in front of the zero crossings and the low cut and the high cut inside the zero crossings module. So you have basically two filtering sections in front of the measuring module. So you can make the signal even simpler then. So so in this case now we have yeah, some kind of pitches here. Maybe just remove this and use this to change the pitch of a sine oscillator. Okay, so in this case here we just disabling the pre-chord, so we can't change the signal by using our MIDI keyboard, so it's completely dependent on the input here, this is the pitch input. So we just connect these two, and now the zero crossings module is estimating the pitch, giving out the pitch signal, and it changes the pitch of the sine oscillator itself, right? And all we have to do now is to use a volume knob here, so we can change the volume and maybe an output so we can hear what's going on. Zero crossings module is trying to estimate the pitch and changes the pitch of the sine oscillator. Works pretty great actually. So you don't need to use your voice, of course. You can use all kinds of audio signals. So it's up to you what you're trying to do with it, right? All you have to know is that the zero crossings module is basically a super simple pitch estimator. It's not for complex signals, it's not precise, but it works pretty well for low frequencies or simple signals, right? And therefore you have this filtering section to make all kinds of signals pretty simple. You can also use the filtering, as I did here, in front of the zero crossings module to make the signal even simpler. And then you get a nice simple pitch signal out of the zero crossings module. And because you get a pitch signal here, you can use all kinds of pitch modulators or pitch modules. For instance, here the pitch quantize. So when you select here all the keys of C major, you get, of course, a pitch signal in the scale of C major. So you can even use this to, yeah, transpose all wrong notes to a certain scale. You can also use transpose here and maybe pitch scaler. So everything you want, basically, you can apply to these pitch signals. Okay, so it's a nice simple module. It's pretty handy, and yeah, try it out and give me feedback if you have problems using this module. Finally, a new tutorial up on YouTube after all this time. So thanks for watching, and please, if you learned something or if you liked the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to be informed about new live streaming events or a new video, and maybe think about a subscription over on Patreon. It helps a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.